Well, welcome all. This is the fourth in our panel series highlighting some of our small liberal arts and private colleges in Virginia. The purpose of this panel series has been to give our advisors and students from all over the state a better sense of what colleges, what transfer colleges are available, again, all over the state, and to allow our four-year colleges to really highlight some of the opportunities that they provide for and to transfer students. Everybody who's heard me talk anywhere has probably heard my spiel by now that having come from a large public four-year institution where I spent almost 20 years, I've really seen how community college students are expected and advised to go to the big public four-year college that's in their backyard, that's regionally the closest. And sometimes that is the right fit for a student, but often that's not the best fit. And often that's not the most affordable option. And often that's not the institution that has the student life or the academic opportunities that are the right fit for a student. So those are the reasons that we're having this panel series. I'm Nicole Hutchison. I'm the Director of Transfer, and I'm joined today by Emily. Emily, can I ask you to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Emily Muniz. I'm the Associate for Transfer and Talent Pathways at Chev. Prior to this, I was at Central Virginia Community College, which is in Lynchburg, Virginia, surrounded by private colleges. So I know how valuable this conversation is today for students.
Those Central Virginia Community College is unusual in being surrounded, but not having it's a big public four-year in its sort of backyard. So we are joined today by two colleges here in Virginia, two private colleges, Randolph College and Marymount University. And I'm going to start by asking our representatives from Randolph, at least one of them, I don't know if both of them can introduce themselves right now, we'll see how Joy is doing, to introduce themselves, tell us who you are and what your role at the college is, and then to provide just a little bit of general information about your college. You'll have lots more opportunity to go into detail about it. So just kind of a general description of your college. So we'll start with Randolph.
So I'll go ahead and get us started. My name is Kim Sheldon. I'm the Director of Student Success here at Randolph College. I work primarily with advising and with all kinds of student support programs across campus. And I am the transfer advisor. So I am the person who works directly with all of our transfer students, working on their programs, understanding their course to graduation, and just generally giving them the kind of support they need on this end. My colleague, Joy, is our admissions transfer advisor. She is currently braving the DC traffic as she's moving through to visit colleges and check in with students across the state. So hopefully she'll pop in at some point. I will say that Randolph is located in Central Virginia. We are small. We are a very intimate sort of experience. So students who are looking for that kind of one-on-one opportunity with faculty, a chance to really have a place where they're known by name by just about everybody, this is a really nice fit. We're about 635 students. Our class sizes are about 10, and our student faculty ratio is 7-to-1. So we are the kind of place where you will be seen, and you will have an opportunity to work on a lot of different kinds of specialty programs and work in our majors very closely with all of our faculty and staff. We are probably one of the biggest things we are known for currently is the fact that we operate on what we call Take Two, which is a program designed to be, our semester is split into 2 sessions, and each session is 7 weeks. And in each session, students take 2 classes at a time. So Take Two means they are focused and going deeply into 2 particular courses at any given time, gives them a chance to really develop their understanding of the course material and interact with faculty on levels that maybe they couldn't if they were taking 5 or 6 classes, which can also be kind of overwhelming. So we're trying to focus our students a little bit here and give them an opportunity to really dig deep. I'll stop there.
You'll have lots of opportunity to describe the dig deeping, the deep digging.
Deep digging.
In subsequent questions. Thank you, Kim. Marymount. will you introduce all you've brought today and your roles and a little bit about the university?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Nicole. My name is Stephanie Foster, and I serve as our vice provost at Marymount. And my role, I help with a lot of things that kind of touch undergraduate education, new student orientation. I oversee all of our support services. So our registrar, our academic hub, our global studies and international student and scholar services. Also our Center for Career Development. And so a lot of the support services that we offer for particularly our undergrads. We have just under about 2,000 undergraduates with a lot of professional programs that we like to say are underpinned by the liberal arts. We have a wide range of majors. One of the majors that I'll highlight a little bit when we do a deep dive is criminal justice. And just so everybody knows, I was, prior to serving as vice provost, a longtime faculty member in our criminal justice program, which is one of our really thriving professional programs here. Marymount is really known for giving students a lot of opportunity. As faculty, we know all of our students, and so we like to make sure students know that you're a name when you come to Marymount. You're not just a number, and we have lots of opportunities for student success with small classrooms and lots of opportunities to explore kind of a lot of the benefits of DC. And because of that, we have really awesome, not only full-time faculty that are really traditional academics, but we also draw really amazing adjuncts that are working in the field and give sort of a different perspective in some of our professional programs. That said, I want to make sure I give Dr. Lou Frasinda, who is our Assistant Vice President for Enrollment Initiatives, as well as Kyle Solly, who is our Assistant Director of Transfer Admissions. So I'm gonna let you guys introduce yourself and we'll go from there.
Be really brief. I am Lou Frasinda. I have been at Marymount for 14 years and I've served in many different roles, but each one I progressively become more involved in enrollment in some way or another. I began really with the dual enrollment program, and we've had great success treating students individually and bringing them into the Marymount experience. And now I have an opportunity to support Kyle in his role over in this office. And I love how Kyle presents Marymount. I've seen him present it, so I don't want to take anything from him. Kyle?
That's a lot of pressure. Hi there. My name is Kyle Solly. I'm our Assistant Director of Transfer Admissions at Marymount. I'm actually on the road today, so I'm at one of the Nova campuses here nearby Marymount. But I work on our transfer admission side. It's a small team. You're really looking at it between Lou and I. But anything from the application process through the enrollment process, Lou and I have our hands in that. I'm happy to answer any questions. And with that, I'll hand it over.
Wonderful, thank you. So Emily and I have a series of questions, and we're going to ask the two colleges to just respond to a few of these questions. We'll just flip back and forth on the order that we ask the questions in.
All right. So as a former transfer advisor, students, when they think of a private school, they might think, it's too expensive. So what how do you all respond to students who might have concerns about cost with the private institutions? And I guess we'll start with Marymount this time.
Yeah, definitely. That's one of the first concerns that students raise when they're looking at the transfer process is affordability. And that's something I think Marymount does a really good job at. So at the base level, just from the jump, for our full-time transfer students, we do offer a transfer award or a transfer merit scholarship, ranging from $10,000 to $16,000. On top of that, we have a $2,000 Phi Theta Kappa scholarship. So for any student who identifies as Phi Theta Kappa, we've got that additional $2,000. We have a grant specifically for students at the Northern Virginia Community College system that I would love to see kind of grown out and expanded. But right now, for students from Nova who have their associate's degree, there's a $2,500 scholarship with a $1,500 scholarship for students who only have 30 plus credits. But definitely encouraging students to see that degree through before transferring over. And then something that should be applicable to both schools is the VTAG, which I'm sure will get discussed. That's the Virginia Tuition Assistance Grant. One thing that we really want is for students to be able to come to Marymount if it's their first choice, and to eliminate, issues of affordability or questions of affordability. And we try to be transparent with that with those scholarships. But one thing I tell every student I talk to is, if Marymount's school for you and the price doesn't line up, let me know. Let's have those conversations so that way we can, see what solutions there are. I'm working with students all the time to, make it more affordable. I don't pull the strings, but I at least know where the strings are, where I can connect them to the people. So that's kind of the brief, but not brief because I'm never brief, answer on scholarship there. But, I think most students look at Marymount and see the price tag and they think, oh, that's a lot. But then when they apply and they see all the aids stack up, a lot of times we end up being, just as affordable, if not more affordable than some of the larger state schools that they're looking at.
I want to jump in with just one other point, and that's that we recently changed our core curriculum. So students coming in with an associate's degree are considered core complete at Marymount. And so one of the initiatives that we've been working towards is helping transfer students finish in what would be a total of 4 years. So if they come in with 2 years of credit, we're working to help them finish in 2 years at Marymount.
Thank you. I think that's very important. So I'm glad you guys brought that up. Kim.
Hi there. Thanks. Yes, I think we share certainly an approach to affordability that Marymount has at Randolph. We're very much an individualized process for our financial aid and how we consider students coming in and how we work with them to develop a program that can help make this possible. We do have a Wildcat commitment that is a floor of $10,000 with the FAFSA, with completing a FAFSA, and there is opportunity for more there. We do also have, obviously, through merit scholarships. We also have the Phi Theta Kappa scholarship available, the $2,000 for students who've come through Phi Theta Kappa, and the Virginia Tuition Assistance Grant of $5,000. There are many other opportunities. Joy's actually a better person to discuss the admissions and financial aid pieces of this, so I'd always encourage students to check in with Joy around these things. But there's a great deal of support, very individualized. We also have, as Marymount mentioned, they had the core complete. Our gen eds are considered complete if a student completes a associate's degree in the VCCS system. So coming in, that does reduce pressure on credits and allows for completion on time. So I think it's an important piece for all colleges to be considering as they look at how students access college the 4-year degree.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for that. And this is an opportunity for me to mention that Marymount and Randolph both work closely with Transfer Virginia. Emily Muniz and I here are the main Transfer Virginia people, and both Marymount and Randolph work closely with Transfer Virginia in thinking about those pathways that you referenced, the 2+2 pathway of making sure that students can complete their associate degree if they're full-time students in 2 years of the community college, and then transfer and complete their bachelor's degree in an additional 2 years if they're full-time students. And while the cost of tuition itself is certainly one of the concerns that students understandably have, finishing in a timely way certainly cuts down on tuition as well. I also wanted to mention, because I forgot to mention this at the beginning of the recording here, if you all have any questions, please feel free from the audience to put those questions into the chat, and we'll make sure that we have time for our representatives here from Randolph and Marymount to respond to any questions. So feel free to just drop those questions in the chat, and then either Emily or I will read them aloud when we get near the end of today's presentations. So I mentioned the 2-year plus 2-year paths and how those can lead to so many different majors. Just on the community college side, we've been working with 30 different majors, and those can lead to so many different majors on the 4-year college side as well. Some of those majors are majors that students are generally very aware of, like everybody's heard of an English major or a math major. Some of those majors are majors that are maybe less familiar to our students. So I wanted to ask our representatives here today, I'm going to start with Randolph and then ask Marymount to tell us about a major or an academic program or two that you think might be particularly interesting or appealing to a prospective transfer student. So it might be a major that everyone's heard of, or it might not be. Either way, we'd love to hear about it. So Randolph, let's start with you. Tell us about a major or two.
Thank you, Nicole. Yeah, I've seen transfer students coming into the college focused on psychology and English and history. We have a sport and exercise studies program that focuses on coaching and sport performance, or in health and fitness. That's been very popular. And they're all available. All our majors obviously available to students. There's a new one, though, that I'm sort of excited about to see how transfer students might react to this. It's called integrative studies. So what we're doing is we are moving to a major that allows a student to mix 3 different interest areas together to complete an undergraduate degree. So we're hoping it provides some flexibility for students who might want to dabble in different areas and then dig a little bit deeper into 3 areas instead of just focusing on one. And so the new integrative studies majors just launched it this year, and I'm going to be talking about it with transfer students as they're looking at us. I want to give them as much opportunity to try as many different things as possible, and I'm hoping integrative studies is that piece that allows us to do that and give them more flexibility than maybe they've had in the past.
Thank you. How about Marymount?
So we have a lot of majors. I will say, you may have heard in the news last year, we changed a lot of our programs in terms of we closed a number of programs that were low enrolled. So if you're coming to Marymount, you won't be able to major specifically in English, history, or math. One of the things that we found is that students were simply not coming to Marymount to major in a lot of our humanities. And so what we did was, you can still certainly study English, history, and math, and you will study English, history, and math if you haven't come in with an associate's degree through our liberal arts core. But similarly, we have a liberal studies program where students can have 2 areas of concentration and can complete a degree. So they could certainly come in and study literature and English at Marymount and study history, but it would actually be packaged as a liberal studies degree. One of the other degree programs that I think has been really popular, and I'm just going to mention it because I have a strong bias towards that program. I was a longtime faculty member in the criminal justice program, and it is a program that is really broad in the sense that students come in, a lot of them are really interested in federal law enforcement. A lot of students want to work for one of the 3-letter agencies, but we have students that alumni go on and work on things like police reform. And I like to remind everybody that now is a time when we need really good people working on really important topics like police reform and looking at changes that need to be made within law enforcement as we look at the civil rights movement that should be ongoing in terms of looking at what we need as a society. So I like to highlight our criminal justice program. We have a strong foundation. We are a Catholic school, and one of our foundations as part of our criminal justice program is ethical decision making and looking at things rather than looking at the world as just black and white, but looking at all of the shades of gray. And our program is also very hands-on. We have a crime scene apartment where we actually have permanent crime scenes set up. And so we also use that as a partnership with Arlington County. And so sometimes they have there's lots of times that we have host law enforcement on our campus. But it gives students the opportunity to actually participate in crimes, all the pieces of crime scene investigation.
Thank you. That's amazing. And a very good segue for the next question. So if you all can tell us about any extracurricular programs that you have at your institution that you would encourage transfer students specifically to consider and how they benefit from and access those programs. And this time we'll start with Marymount.
Sure. One that comes to mind, we have some really cool opportunities, and I wish they were around when I was in college. We have a program called the Global Classroom, and the Global Classroom is we encourage all students to participate in global classrooms. They range in all different areas. So you could take a global classroom course, excuse me, that isn't in the area that you're studying. So if you wanted to take, say, art history, you could take a global classroom course, and it's a traditional course. So it fits and counts in load, and it should count towards your degree requirement in some way, but then the students will travel with the faculty member abroad. And so one example I can give you is they've taken students studying art history to Rome, and they actually Rome and then Florence and go and study art in the museums. And so they have an opportunity to really get an international experience, which then if they want to, it gives them really a structured way to study abroad prior to studying abroad for like a whole semester. So it's a pretty cool way to be able to travel with a faculty member and to get experience in another country.
Real quick, just to echo that, I came to Marymount from a similar school in the Midwest. And one of the things that really surprised me about Marymount was the number of study abroad opportunities there are for students. I always like to joke and tell students that we've touched every continent except for Antarctica in the last 4 cycles. And if we go to Antarctica, I'll be the first one to sign up. I really love penguins. But there are just a ton of, like, a surprising number of study away opportunities, which are all really fantastic.
Thank you. Randolph.
Yeah, hi. I think I see that Joy has been able to join us. I'd love an opportunity for Joy to introduce herself. And Joy, if you'd like to add anything to the whole programming discussion we had earlier too, you might have some great thoughts.
Thank you. And I feel like I need a cocktail after that drive on 95. Bless everyone that has to deal with that on a daily basis. You said everything eloquently. I did want to touch on one little thing with cost, especially with full Pell students before loans. I've got a student next semester that's only paying $400 to come and attend Randolph as a commuter. So we are extremely affordable. Also opportunities, looking at transfer students, our internship program. We had a transfer this past summer that did NASA internship. So was up in this neck of the woods, and another student theater, so we do have those liberal arts classes. Marymount folks, if they don't have them right, y'all send them to us. We would love to have our history and English folks as majors. Kim, what other opportunities can you think of for our transfers?
I encourage transfers to be a part of our summer research as soon as they get here, if that's something that they're interested in doing, and working very closely with a faculty member. That's a stipended summer program. We also offer a program called RISE. It's a program in which students can apply. They actually have to write a proposal for a grant, and they'll receive $2,000. Anyone can get this as long as they write the proposal and it's a sound one. in a creative endeavor or in some sort of research piece that they'd like to do, and they get funds to help support those particular efforts. And that's offered to all of our students, and that's something I actually encourage transfer students to consider, because you can use it anytime in your sophomore, junior, or senior year, and sometimes our transfers need to get on that very quickly. So that's a wonderful program for us. We also offer study abroad. I think that's an amazing opportunity for students to go abroad. We're starting to see that pick up again after COVID. I'm really appreciating that. We also have a program called American Culture, where students can study away essentially in America through a program that takes them traveling through the United States on a particular focus. So it's the workplace this year. In session 4, our students will be working on 2 courses that are focused on workplace in America and traveling around America to various locations to learn more about how all this is happening. Helps them synthesize all the work that they're doing in class. It's a great discussion level class. So those are just some of the examples of programs we have in place that I'd encourage transfers to be a part of.
I appreciate you all providing these natural segues for Emily and me. I feel like your answers have just led directly into our next question. So thank you. Those of you who have heard me talk about this part as well know that I'm a big fan of study abroad, and really any opportunity that gives students a chance to visit somewhere else and be part of an experience in a culture that is not their own. And often for transfer students, study abroad is just one example, is not something that's really been on their radar. That there's been an assumption that if you are a transfer student, you've kind of missed out on the study abroad opportunity, because the traditional narrative is that study abroad is a junior year thing. So if you're just transferring in, obviously you're not going to immediately fly to Spain. So my next question is broader than just talking about study abroad, but I would love to have you all talk maybe also about whether and how transfer students can access study abroad. But my question is broader. My question is, how does your college help transfer students adjust to your institution after transfer with orientation, housing, advising, etc.? But I'd also love to hear how you help them connect with additional opportunities that your students who started at your college have. Randolph, I think it's your turn to start.
That's something that I love about Randolph, is the personalized attention that you have. And, I've been there 17 years, been in higher ed almost 30. Kim's been there longer than I have. And, I give out my cell phone number to transfer students. I work with internationals and transfer students, so definitely appreciate all things international. But, transfer students housing, our current policy, which we are discussing to revamp, but currently students do have to live on campus unless they are 24 or older, married with children, military. We have made some exceptions, but we are definitely revamping that. So it's not a problem. We guarantee housing for our students. I think it's about 80% of our students do live on campus. There is an orientation, very personable. And as far as, during the process, once their, classes have started between Kim and myself, if there's a question, it gets answered. Mm-hmm. Kim, anything you want to add to that?
Yep. Because I'm the advisor for every transfer student coming in, I touch base with them multiple times during a semester, especially the first semester. I want to make sure that everybody's on track, that they're enjoying their courses. I have multiple touch points over the course of 2 sessions for them. Many times I'm probably declaring a student into a major very quickly because they're coming in with a number of credits, and I want to make sure that they switch to a major advisor relatively quickly, and that we are on track for graduation and moving through all of those pieces. I think the academic support that they receive from faculty is incredibly strong here, and I know exactly where my students are generally in the classroom, and that's really helpful as an advisor in terms of steering them towards support that they need if they need it. Also encouraging some of these other components that we talked about earlier, the RISE grant, the summer research, some of these specialty programs. I'm working with them on that too. Also, our dean of our student affairs office does in the semesters a session on connection. And I always encourage and invite all of our transfer students for that. That's done relatively early, right? It's not at orientation, it's actually a little bit after, so that we can kind of capture changing interests and needs as we go into the semester. So the connections luncheon is really fun.
Thank you, Marymount.
So at Marymount, we host a transfer orientation. And usually as part of that transfer orientation, we have a resource fair, if you will, and we try to involve both all of our academic support units, our academic hub. We have professional advisors here at Marymount. So our transfer students get handed off specifically to a major advisor, and our major advisors are assigned based upon the academic structure. So we have 3 different colleges here at Marymount: our College of Business, Innovation, Leadership, and Technology, our College of Health and Education, and then our College of Sciences and Humanities. And so our advisors are assigned in clusters, essentially according to the college for which they advise. And so they can answer questions. We're also pretty small in our hub. What we've intentionally designed our hub to be, we call it our academic hub, and it's got tutoring services. We've got our professional advisors. We have our global ed office there. We have our international student and scholar services offices there. So it's really meant to be, and then right kind of across the hallway is our registrar's office and our financial aid and student accounts. And so ideally, we're trying to make it convenient for students to be able to have kind of a one-stop shop. We're trying to avoid, in the past, we've called it the Marymount Shuffle, where we send students from one office, and our campus isn't that big, but we've tried to kind of co-locate these offices together. And so that a student can literally, and we've been trying to change our culture so that rather than saying, you know, oh, I'm going to point over there and this is where you go, it's a, let me walk you over there and I'm going to make the introduction. And we also located our Abide Hub, which is essentially our DEI center. It stands for access, belonging, inclusion, diversity and equity. It's kind of a long title, but it's also a spot that's meant to be kind of a hangout spot for our students. And really, as the director of our Abide Hub is also just a resource for students of connecting them. A lot of our student clubs meet there. And so connecting them to other areas of campus, not just to the academic side.
Fantastic. So just to be totally transparent to our audience here, those were all of the topics that I had let our Randolph and Marymount representatives here know were coming. And now I'm going to surprise you all with another question that I think is a really important one. It wasn't intended to be a surprise question so much as one that I should have thought of before we first planned and put together these roundtables. And it's about another myth that prospective transfer students, advisors, many of us have bought into about private colleges, especially smaller private liberal arts colleges. And that's the assumption that small private liberal arts colleges are very, very white and very upper crust, upper class, upper middle class. I realized this with my own daughter when she was looking at colleges and initially didn't want to look at small private liberal arts colleges because she assumed that that's what they would look like. So although I said I'm putting you both on the spot, I know a little bit about both your institutions. So I know that in some ways this is going to be a fairly easy question for you to answer. But can you address that myth of the idea of small private liberal arts colleges being rich and white? And I'll let Marymount go first because they're nodding most vigorously right now.
Sure. I love the diversity on campus. It's one of the things that I love most about working here is you find we have a very diverse student body. We're ranked, I think, number 2 for one of the most diverse private universities in the South. We are also have a designation as a Hispanic serving institution, and we have a lot of low-income and first-gen students that come to Marymount. And because of that, we have really tried to make sure that we have really robust support for students as they navigate Marymount, and just trying to think about making sure, like I said, we've co-located offices so that we can make sure students know that where our tutoring center is. So if they're, when they first come to campus and they're meeting with an advisor and signing up for classes and looking at, they can show them right where they can go if they want any tutoring. And they can find access to student clubs and we have just this wide range of student clubs. So, and we tell students that if we don't have it and it's something that you want, we're open to exploring it. And so looking at our Abide Hub as being a place where all students can find a place where they belong on campus.
Yeah, and like we mentioned earlier, we've got around 2,000 students on campus, but of that 2,000, we have students from all 50 states and 75 countries. So when you're looking at your average class size of 15, it's not 15 students from the same background, the same experience, the same cultures. We've got that small class feel, but really we're pulling in a lot of different, cultures with, into that group of 15, which I think is just a huge benefit to our students because, they're seeing the diversity that they'll see in the workforce in their classroom space.
Thank you. Randolph, will you talk a little bit about that perception and that myth?
It is indeed a myth at Randolph. It's amazing how much our student body has been changing. I've been here 25 years now, as we mentioned. And I've seen it change. It's always had a level of diversity, but it's been exploding, really, in terms of how diverse our population is now. 41% of our students are students of color. That includes international. We do have, I'll let Joy talk a little bit more about internationals in a minute, but that's been shifting dramatically, and about 54% of our students are Pell eligible. So there is work that we're doing with students that we're helping to acclimate to the college life. We've got a bridge program that runs the summer 2 weeks ahead of the start of the first semester. It's called our STAR program, and I focus heavily on first generation students in that program and students who might have been underserved in other areas. So that is open. And we also are really exploring avenues to help support first generation students during the time they're here. We've just initiated our Honor Society for first gen students this past week. So it's exciting to see the changes in our demographics. We were a women's college, so we became much more diverse when we allowed men in. So but yeah, it's been a growing and changing sort of facet of our institution for the past 20 years. It's been really exciting. Joy, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, I was going to say, it was funny. Our first year when we went co-ed, we were hoping for, lucky we got 20 to 30 males. We had 68. So, and we're right around, I believe, the national average, I think 38% males, around that. So internationals, we're about 5%, hoping to get that a little bit higher. But again, COVID has really hurt our connections with international students. But yeah, when I started working there, married to an international student, an international person, and always have felt that Randolph is like its own little mini United Nations. And just love the diversity, both socioeconomic, culturally. I think close to 40 states are represented at Randolph, and we're small, right? I mean, 650 students when you're that diverse, it's very noticeable. So, and thank you for mentioning the first gen. That was great to have our first honor society for first gen students. So thanks.
Do we have, and so we want to give you an opportunity in the audience, if you have any questions, to either unmute or put questions in the chat.
While we're waiting, just there was a question that came up towards the beginning that I just would like to capture here. You all were talking about how your, core and your liberal arts requirements were, or your gen ed requirements rather, were waived for students with associate degrees. Does that also apply to dual enrolled students that come in with their associate degrees?
It does. At Marymount, any associate's degree will count as core complete.
Our students are the same. Our dual enrollment students can exempt from the gen eds. There is one class that they take that all first years take, though, and that's Life More Abundant, 1101, our common experience. So we want to make sure students, if they've had the experience at a community college, is tremendously helpful for them as they launch into their career here at Randolph, but we want to make sure they're connecting at Randolph as well. So
Great, thank you. I guess while we're waiting to see if there's other questions, is there anything that either institution feels like they would like to add, to share with students today, just to know about your institution and all of your great opportunities that you have?
Joy's hand was raised.
Yes. I want to personally invite counselors and advisors to come visit us. I can't stress that enough. I will probably reimburse you for your mileage if you come. I got to check with my boss, but I'm sure he would, because that's the best way to see us, and that's even true for our students as well. But inviting advisors and counselors, y'all take a road trip, and you might end up moving to Lynchburg. You never know, because you're not in all this traffic.
Yeah, I can't promise no traffic, but we would also welcome anybody that would love to visit. I'll put my email in the chat, and we're happy to arrange a visit, and we can have you meet with faculty and give you a tour of our campus, and we would love to host you.
You all are the fourth, this is the fourth of our 4-part panel, and this is the first time that the invitations have gone out to advisors here to come visit, and I love that. I think that's brilliant. Advisors, I encourage you to take advantage of this, because when I have visited the campuses, I've gotten just so much deeper a feel for what life is like there for students. And I have repeatedly wished that I could go back to age 17 and make some different choices. So I do encourage you. I don't think any of you probably on this call are in a position right now to start your undergraduate education all over again, but you do have the opportunity to open up windows and doors for students that you work with. I would like to ask those of you on both the Randolph and Marymount side here to put contact information into the chat, not just for advisors to come visit your campuses, although I really do love that. But if a student or an advisor has a question about transfer, of course, we encourage them to go to the portal, but we also encourage them to make that personal contact. You all mentioned a few times that high touch personal contact with students, and I concur that that is a great strategy for helping a student find the college that's the right fit.
Yeah, and if we can't answer your question, we can find the answer. So we are happy to connect you with the right faculty member or staff member on our campus. So feel free to reach out.
One thing I do always love to highlight is just the benefit of our location. It does open up so many opportunities for students. So we're in Arlington, Virginia. There's a ton of opportunities in Arlington itself, but we're also 6 metro stops away from Washington, D.C., with a shuttle service that's taking students to and from the metro. So in terms of internships, every student's going to graduate with at least one internship. In terms of like conferences and research, things like that, it opens up a lot of opportunities. But also, like, we want our students to enjoy their time at Marymount beyond just having a good time being a student. So it opens up a lot of opportunities for them to go and do things on the weekends and do things with their friends. And there's always, I went to school back in Indiana. I was looking to be near a big city, but not in the big city, for the opportunities. And there's just more opportunities out here than there were back there. So I'm always a little envious for students when I hear the internships that they get and the opportunities that they get. I said, love it back home, but there's just so much out here for students.
Fantastic. Thank you all for providing that information. I have gone by and through both of your campuses, and I feel like that, in conjunction with the information you've provided today, really does give a nice picture of the campus and both campuses. So again, I encourage advisors, and we're recording this, so it is it has a reach, the recording has a reach much greater than the advisors who were able to join us today. But thank you to all of the advisors who were able to join us today. And please continue to share the information that you have gotten here and at our other panels with students. I think we all have ultimately the exact same goal, which is to help students find a transfer institution that is the right fit for them, where they will be, where they'll flourish and prosper. So thank you all for your work in making that happen.
Thank you all for the opportunity. It's been lovely.